So I was 6 years old, and one day my mom comes running into the house, tears streaming down her face. Your dad's been shot, Aubrey. He's not going to come home. Everybody's crying. He just got murdered in Abilene, Texas. Promised myself I'm going to hit 200 balls every single day until I graduate high school, and I'm going to make that promise to my mom come true, to buy that house and car. You know, knowing that she went through so much pain, that was my motivation every single day. In 2010, you know, after we won this World Series, I'm literally waking up the next day. I chased a dream for my whole life, and now it's achieved, and now what? I had this full-length mirror in my closet, and I'd hit my knees with that gun in my hand. As I'm looking at that gun in the mirror, I freaked out. Put it down. That same .357 Magnum I had in my hand, my dad was murdered by. That same caliber weapon.
Welcome back to Max Out, everybody. Today's program is going to be one that you're going to remember for a long time. I have a feeling about today, based on our conversations off camera, and the topics that we're going to cover today, I think are going to resonate with so many of you. So I'm really excited about today. The gentleman to my left played 13 years in the big leagues. 242 career home runs in the major leagues in baseball means you could flat mash. Hit over 30 home runs a couple times in seasons. Is a guy that I watched when he played, and I wish I could hit like he did. So
I wish I could run like you did.
Well, your hitting got you to be a millionaire. My running got me a podcast. So
but hey, as I'm sitting here, you're doing pretty well.
We're doing all right. And today's going to be remarkable. So everybody, this gentleman to my left is Aubrey Huff. So Aubrey, thanks for being here, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on, brother.
And just show him this real quick. Flip that there. That's the World Series ring.
Yes, sir.
How about that? Is that beautiful?
2012. I didn't want to wear my 2010 when
it's a little overkill to have two. Yeah, I know how that goes. Sure. Anyway, let's talk about how you build a World Series champion like yourself, but also I want to talk about how you build a life and how a man develops over time. The thing I love about Aubrey, and by the way, he's got a new podcast out you should check out. You should check his social media out. We'll talk about that in a little while too. This is a real vulnerable athlete. One of the things I admire about you is your ability to be real. Most athletes sort of put a face on, everything's perfect, I'm a big leaguer, I'm Superman, and you're real about life, your struggles, maybe even demons, etc. But I want to go back because I think everybody, you know, would love to know a little bit about your childhood because I think it defines you. Yeah. You were 6 years old and you lost your dad. Why don't you share with everybody the incident that took place with your father when you were a little boy?
Yeah, so I was 6 years old, and hard hitting right out of the gate, but so I was 6 years old, and I was watching the Transformers on my grandmother's couch. And at the time, my grandmother, and we lived in Texas at the time, around Arlington Stadium, and grew up a Texas Rangers fan. And my grandmother loved the Texas Rangers, watched them every night. And my mom was working at Winn-Dixie at the time, and my father was a electrician at a local apartment complex. And one day, my mom comes running into the house, tears streaming down her face. I'm sitting there watching my Transformers, as I said, and everybody's crying. My grandma's crying, my grandpa's crying, my sister's 4 at the time, I'm 6. And she comes up to me and everybody's circled around me. Your dad's been shot, Aubrey. He's not going to come home. Everybody's crying. He just got murdered in Abilene, Texas.
Oh my gosh.
And at the time, at 6 years old, you don't know how to take that.
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't hit you, right? So you're kind of just in this shocked thing, you know. I had no idea what to say. And all I did was continue watching the Transformers. Just completely shocked. You know, it was one of those weird things, but
what was it like to watch your mom go through that?
You know, it's weird because I see her hurting the way she did, and I just, for whatever reason, in that moment, even at 6 years old, I put on this mask, this front. I didn't even cry, and it was weird, you know. So I felt that was very interesting. As I got older, and I look back at some of the issues I've had. Maybe it was something I didn't deal with as I got older, but I have since become to deal with it. I can't even talk about this back in the day.
Is that right?
If I was to talk about this, I would lose my mind, freak out, and not even want to talk about it. But I've come to terms with that now, and you know, so it's interesting. After my father had passed, you know, I started getting into baseball a little bit more and more. And as a kid, I was starting to take to painting. I loved to paint in acrylics, and as I said, I loved the Texas Rangers growing up. And I was starting to paint this Texas Rangers logo, and it was on this canvas. And my mom comes home one day after work, and she goes, "Hey, I'm going to surprise you guys. I got 2 tickets or 3 tickets to the Texas Rangers baseball game." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, all right." So I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to take this canvas and I'm going to take it all the way to the dugout during batting practice, see if I can get some guys to sign it.
Okay.
And at the time, my grandmother's favorite player was Jeff Houston of the Texas Rangers. A little shortstop. Didn't do much in the league, but she loved him. And we're at batting practice, and I'm holding this sign up as a kid, and Jeff Houston spots it. Comes right over and goes, "Hey, son, you paint that?" And I said, yeah, I painted that. And he goes, "Wow, it's amazing. Here you go, buddy. You're my grandma's favorite player." He goes, "Oh, that's sweet, man. Hey, fellas, come here, come here."
Wow.
He got about 13 other Rangers to come over and sign my painting. Rafael Palmeiro, Ruben Sierra, Juan Gonzalez, all these studs.
Great players.
Great players, right? And these are the guys I idolized growing up. And as these men are walking by in their uniform, as a kid with no father, I'm going,
"Oh, wow.
Oh, these are my idols. These are my father figures," right? And it was in that moment, at that game, sitting there with my mom, I fell in love with baseball.
Wow.
And we get in the car that night. I don't remember who won the game, could care less. And we're driving home, and I said, "Mom, I know what I want to be when I grow up." And it was in that moment that I knew I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. Just knew it. And if you buy me a batting cage and a pitching machine, I'm going to make the major leagues, and one day I'm going to buy you a house and a car. And my mom, with a Winn-Dixie salary, she's like, "Yeah, that's sweet, honey," as you would expect any mother would say. And you know, for about 3 years, I begged and begged and begged. And as she saw me over those years, from 6 years old to 9, just take over loving baseball, I lived it, I breathed it. I was watching Sports Center every night, idolizing my favorite players, Ken Griffey Jr., watching his swing. I was up till 2 in the morning, she didn't even know it, watching these guys, right? I just lived baseball. And then it was Christmas of 2009, or I'm sorry, not 2009, I was 9 years old. And my sister, my mom, my grandma, my grandpa, and myself were opening Christmas presents. And every present was open. There was nothing left of the tree. I had nothing, and I'm sitting there crying, "Ah, I've been a bad boy," right? And my grandpa is a Texas man, and he's like, "You know what? Get up, boy. Get up, boy." Puts a blindfold on me. My mom, my grandpa lead me outside to the backyard. Open up the blindfold, and there was that batting cage with the pitch machine. And as you can imagine, I hugged my grandma, I hugged my grandpa, and they constructed that on their own. Got the pipes up, dug the poles, the whole deal. I mean, on a Winn-Dixie salary, my grandpa chipped in a little bit, but it was in that moment I made a dedication to myself. I promised myself I'm going to hit 200 balls every single day until I graduate high school, and I'm going to make that promise to my mom come true, to buy that house and car. So every day, I hit that baseball 200 times a day, and as I'm doing that, I'm visualizing myself hitting a game-winning World Series home run right down the right field line at Arlington Stadium as a kid.
Come on, yeah.
And so I say that as I fast forward to 2010. Okay. I'm playing for the San Francisco Giants. We're playing.
Guess who they're playing?
Texas Rangers.
Texas Rangers.
In the ballpark in Arlington. We're up 2-1. It's game 4. The score is 0-0 in the top of the 3rd inning. Runner second. I step up. First pitch, cutting fastball off Tommy Hunter, hit the ball right down the right field line, just like I envisioned all those times as a kid.
Okay, that's got to be one of the greatest stories ever.
It was unbelievable. To me, it was in that moment where it was like the power of visualization, the power of making your dreams come reality. Now, I think a lot of people, they think that, okay, I had this dream, but it didn't happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen tomorrow. I want it to happen next year. It took me years. That took 20 years to get to that moment.
That's incredible.
You know what I mean? So
what's incredible to me too is, I want to stop there just for a second because everyone's just heard that story. That sounded like a movie. You just heard this. So your dad is actually shot too, which we'll talk about in a minute here, with a .357, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your dad's shot, you're 6 years old, and he's a bystander trying to help somebody in a domestic issue. This man loses his father at 6, 9 goes to the game, gets the batting cage, promises his mom he's going to buy her a house and a car if she'll get him the cage. 200. I picture the guy hitting the 200 hacks a day.
Yeah.
That's what I think of, because I played, and there's people listening that are in sales that are making those calls. They're driving to their car right now on their 4th sales call or 8th sales call, and it seems to add up to nothing. It seems to be making no progress. And because I played ball, I'm just picturing this kid in the backyard hitting those 200 swings every day, day after day after day, to then have that vision to make it happen in the World Series is just bananas. I think it's remarkable.
Well, the key is for me too, is I think in a lot of things in life, I mean, obviously I know you love what you do. That's why you're successful at what you do, because you're helping people. And along the way, playing baseball, I loved it, man.
Yes.
I don't think you can be successful in anything unless you love it. I mean, I got good buddies all over the place. They're doing jobs they hate, and you know, making minimum wage and complaining all the time. But I'm telling them, hey, man, you know, at some point you got to make a change. If you love something, you got to go for it. You may not be successful right out of the gate.
Yeah, you got to keep going. And the other thing is, even if you're making a lot of money out of it, but you hate it, you're going to go, let's just be real, your work life is at least a third of your life, but probably it dominates more than half your thinking. So even if you're making money, but you hate what you're doing, it's pretty difficult to have a great life spending a half or third of your life doing something you hate. It's why it's so important to find, or eventually be able to transition into something that you love. And I'm just, what's fascinating to me about you, brother, is because you were a great player. You're humble about it, but you were a great player, particularly a great hitter. Like, this dude could just some dudes can hit. Something.
Good thing I could hit, because I didn't play defense very well.
You said that, I didn't. You didn't. They didn't put a fielding net in your backyard.
No, but if you can get the DH job, that's the best job in the world.
Best job in the world. But I've just pictured this guy, and I love hearing the story, because I'd watch you hit. I'm like, all right, he's 6'4", he's built like a Greek god, that's why he can hit. But nah, had a batting cage, 200 of them, keeping the promise to mom. That's remarkable.
Well, I think what's cool about that too is, like, I think when you're out there grinding every single day, if it's just for you, you're going to give up on yourself, because that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Maybe not for a lot of people, but for me, it had to be selfless, right? And for me, that driving force is my mom, who was there for my sister and I, working that Winn-Dixie, that double shift every day to get us through. Growing up in a double-wide trailer in the trailer park in Texas, right? So, you know, knowing that she went through so much pain, that was my motivation every single day. Mom, right? And so, I think if you have a powerful enough force behind you, besides yourself, whether it's your faith, your family, or whoever it is, that's going to drive you when things get really hard.
Bro, that's beautiful. I'm so glad you shared this to start. Like, we got into something so magnificent, because it's not also the defense, you know, the events of our life don't define us. It's the meaning we take from these events. And so all of you probably had something in your childhood that shaped you that you're unconscious of. And that's the other thing I want to visit with you a little bit about. So, man, I'm stuck on this just picture of you rounding the bases, hitting this home run in the World Series that you dreamed all this time. This is so beautiful, man.
Well, it's interesting, because that's funny you brought that up. So as I'm rounding the bases during that home run, I literally hit second base, and I happened to look up over the third base dugout at the second deck where my mom and sister and I sat when I was 6 years old, when she took me to that game. And when I hit second base, I could see myself eating a hot dog, looking down at me doing that moment. And the next thing I knew, I was in the dugout high-fiving my teammates. I had no idea. I kind of blacked out from second to home to all the way to the dugout. It was one of those surreal moments where life just went full circle. To realize the power of the grind of that batting cage and what I was able to accomplish for my mom. And what was interesting, you'll love this, for what I was able to do with my mom, for those of you that are listening, hey, did you get her that house and car?
Yeah, right, that's the next question.
So, when I first got my first big league deal with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays in 2003, I signed for a 3 years, $15 million deal. And the first thing I did when I got that first check was, hey, Mom, let's have a son and mom day. You know, I'm going to pick you up in the morning. We're going to have a great day. I had this all planned out already. She had no idea what was going on. So I pick her up for breakfast, and she's like, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let's go drive around." I pulled up into since she's a redneck woman from Texas. We pulled into a Dodge dealership. And I said, choose.
That's great.
Choose. So she chose a Dodge Ram pickup truck. And as we're signing the papers, you could see tears streaming down. And at the moment, I was still kind of happy. I wanted to cry, but I didn't quite. This next one will. It made me cry. So I was like, all right, Mom, she's getting her truck. It's not the final surprise. Why don't you follow me? So we hopped in my truck, and I'd had this planned for months ahead of time. And she's pulling in behind me in the driveway of her new house.
Oh,
the lady, the sales agent's there by the sign that says sold with the keys. I'm looking at the rearview mirror. My mom almost rear ends me because she's like, ah! Got this little two-story beach bungalow on the beach in St. Petersburg, and as the lady's handing over the keys, it was like Niagara Falls, Ed.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
She cried, I cried, and even the agent was crying.
That's so cool. So, you know what? I'm glad you're saying this, because on my show, we don't get to the actual stories like this often enough. We're like, this is the payoff. This is the moment. Like, I know people are driving, or they're watching this, or they're working out, and like, they're picturing that moment for their mom, their kids, their parents, you know, their siblings, whatever it is. And that's why it's worth hitting those 200 swings every day. That's why it's worth, by the way, you parents, investing in your kids' dreams like your mom did, or your grandparents did there too. Like, that's just beautiful. I want to ask you something though, because my favorite part about you isn't that you were a great baseball player, because I don't think that's the most remarkable thing about you, even though if you took the percentages of people who have achieved what you've achieved, there's very few people walking on the earth. Like right now, I don't know the number, you probably do. How many people currently alive on Earth have hit 240 or more home runs in the big leagues? I mean,
well, I think there was something that kind of blew me away. After I retired, I didn't really realize this. You know, like you said, I hit 242 home runs in my career, and I think it's something like I'm top 350 something of all time to hit home runs.
Is that amazing?
I thought to myself, out of all the people that have ever been born,
is that amazing?
And the amount of jobs that are in the big leagues from. I mean, if you really look at it, there's only 750 jobs a year.
Yes.
For the big leagues, and just the small percentage of to make it to the big leagues. And I remember, I think it was I heard this from Les Brown or some motivational speaker. I can't remember who it was from. He's like, if the dream is big enough, the odds don't matter.
That's so
right.
Good.
And that's one of my favorite quotes because that was literally looking back at my life. That was kind of the way I went at it.
And who thinks, by the way, that one of these 350 people that have ever walked the earth is this kid whose dad shot and killed when he's 6 years old?
1,000.
Isn't that amazing? You can come from anywhere and accomplish something in your life. However, I want to go somewhere because this is the part where I think you're going to help the most people.
Right.
This is the thing that made me want you really badly on the show, is that I think things happen in our childhood, whether we understand them or not, they shape us in some way, shape, or form. And I think most people think, if I could just get this dream achieved, I can make that money, I can do this for my mom, which is a beautiful moment, I can do this for myself, I can achieve the top of my industry, which in your industry is one of the most difficult in the world to become the top of, that everything else in my life is going to be great. That I don't have to work on any other parts of things that bother me or that depress me or that hold me back. I don't have to work on my mental health, which we're going to talk a little bit about kind of mental health here a little bit, everybody. To some extent, I have my issues with it. There's the secret. People ask me, what's the number one thing that surprised you that all your guests have in common that are on your show?
Oh, it's the mental health aspect.
It is,
right? Yeah.
And I'll say one is that obviously I knew they were obsessed and worked hard. The thing that surprised me is the percentage of them, to some extent, that still struggle with finding happiness, with finding peace, with mental health issues. Like, that's the part that surprised me the most. I thought, well, and I should have known better, but these mega achievers, they found happiness automatically because they've achieved things, and that's not always the case. So would you share a little bit about when you were playing and just overall struggles you've had with just happiness, mental health in general?
Well, it was interesting because in 2010, you know, after we won this World Series, I'm literally waking up the next day next to my wife at the time, and I look her dead in the eyes. We're rolling over, waking up, and she's like, wow, you got to be so proud, you got to be amazing. And I looked her dead in the eye and I go, huh, now what? I was 35 years old. I'd accomplished everything I'd ever wanted in my life. I won a World Series, made millions of dollars, beautiful wife, kids, all the toys, the gadgets, but deep down inside, I was still unfulfilled. I chased a dream for my whole life, and now it's achieved, and now what? So there was that identity of what I'm chasing anymore was gone. And so after that moment, I went on a bender of Adderall, booze, just to try and to numb that pain, to the point where I ended up in rehab in 2010. Where
same year you win the World Series.
That off season, where there's kids in there that are 15 years old with needles in their arms, and I mean people with really a lot of problems. I didn't think I had a problem, but I knew I needed some help, and so I was masking a lot of internal pain. I had everything, right, everything, and so it was right from then. After I won that World Series, I retired in 2012. Interestingly enough, we won the World Series in 2012, but that whole season I was a ghost. I was having anxiety attacks every single day in the clubhouse. I couldn't play. I was put on the 60-day DL. I was basically staying home on road trips because I couldn't travel, because I couldn't get on an airplane.
Didn't you have one event, if you don't mind me interrupting, where the first big one, you literally took off,
It was 2011. I'm in New York. It was about 3 in the morning, and I had to go to the bathroom, went to go take a piss, you know, come back out, and the room started shrinking in on me. My heart started racing. It felt like I was sweating, but yet I was freezing. It was weird, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh. I just went on probably had 12 beers that night and 15 shots too, so I probably didn't help my situation.
Sure.
And so the room's closing in. I'm like, oh gosh, I think I'm having a heart attack. That's the first thing that went in my mind. No way I'm going to die in this hotel room. It's 3 in the morning. We're in New York, and I'm packed my bag right then and there. I'm zip it up, and I just go full from the clothes I had on the night before, smelling like booze and just gross. Get in the cab, go to the airport, and I'm literally getting a ticket to Tampa to go see my family. Now, as I'm going through this, I'm still freaking out. Heart's racing, I'm dripping sweat. The lady at the counter's like, you okay, sir? I'm like, yeah, I think so, just trying to get through it. I'm at the gate waiting to get on, excuse me, get on the plane, and I'm sitting there with my feet up on the wall, on the ground, trying to maintain some kind of, you know, calmness. Couldn't do it. And as I boarded the plane, the doors slammed and it went into overdrive. And now I'm like white knuckling on the seats. We're not even moving yet. And I'm like, how do I get off this plane? How do I get off this plane? And as we start to land in Tampa, finally, with a jacket over all the air jumping on me. I mean, I had to calm down some way. I see the sun come up in Tampa as I'm about to land. I started calming down and I was like, what the hell was that?
Wow.
Had no clue. I land there and my wife was like, what are you doing here? And I had to call the team and say, hey, I don't know what happened, family emergency, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of lied about it.
Yep.
The next day, I'm packing to go back to Cincinnati where they're going for the next trip. And as I'm packing my bag, it was happening again.
Man.
And I'm like, okay, I'm staying. So I called my trainers. They put me into with a therapist. I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder, the whole deal. And from that moment on, it was like I was a ghost the rest of my career.
The rest of your career.
Yeah.
This is, by the way, it takes a strong man to share this.
Yeah.
And I know you shared it before, but not maybe.
It's never easy.
Yeah, and to an audience this large too, and I really respect that. And I think that, you know, everybody, when there's these issues that you have in your life that are there, I asked you off camera, did you have this anxiety just that first time? You said, no, it was always sort of there, but
right.
it just sort of eventually reared its head big time. And so, you know, everybody, if your identity is tied up in, I've done podcasts on this, but if your identity is tied up in your money, your relationship, your achievements, your body, these other things, if you link your identity to these things, you have to eventually just love you. You have to care for you. You have to become at some kind of peace with you. These external things eventually wear out in your identity. I'm curious though, you had the Adderall thing going pretty good there for a while. Yeah. And it led to an event. I just want everyone to hear this because I think most people listening to this, I think most people struggle with happiness. And so that could be caused all the way to what we want to call full-blown depression, to anxiety, to just they're down, they're lethargic, they're melancholy, they're frustrated, they're scared. There's all these negative mental emotions we all have. They're worried. I suffer from all of them at some time or another. But for you, this thing kind of got worse and worse and worse till you found yourself at one point, and you'd retired.
Yeah,
you mind telling them?
Yeah, I was retired. We just won the World Series in 2012.
Yeah.
We swept the Tigers in Detroit. I didn't play one at bat. I mean, I was basically done. And so I walked off that field that day. I'm done. I'm going to raise my kids, who at the time were 4 and 2, I believe. I'm like, okay, I'm going to ride off in the sunset. Anxiety, depression's gone. I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And it wasn't that easy, man. I got out, and for the next 2 years, I was sporadically having panic attacks and just kept going. And then, along with the panic attacks, depression started sitting in. I would have, waiting for that daily panic attack during the day. There was a moment where there was a time in my life where I couldn't get on my bike to go ride it around on the beach because I was afraid to get a panic attack on my bike.
Oh gosh.
I've called the ambulance 3 times to come pick me up, to check me out, to see, because I thought I was dying. Wow. And then as the days would go and I'd have my daily panic attack, I'd find myself in the closet every day, just depressed, like staring at the mirror, which is interesting because in 2014 I'd had enough. I've been 2 years out of the game, and my wife was cooking dinner in the kitchen in San Diego. I was cutting vegetables, my kids are playing Legos, and all of a sudden, there goes that heart race again. Here comes that panic attack. I'm like, I'd had enough. So I retreated to my room. I went to my closet, and in my closet I have a safe. I hit the code, I pulled out my gun. And at the time I was wearing a wife beater. I had the shaved head, the goatee, the tattoos. I looked like a tough son of a bitch, but I was scared to death inside, right? And I had this full-length mirror in my closet. And I'd hit my knees with that gun in my hand, and I was desperate, man. I was tired of feeling that way. I pulled the hammer back and I put it here, and I'm looking right in that mirror and I'm crying. Just crying. All I have to do is pull it and it'd be all over with. And it was in that moment where I was thinking to myself, as I'm looking at that gun in the mirror, that I freaked out. Put it down. That same .357 Magnum I had in my hand, my dad was murdered by. That same caliber weapon. And so, man, talk about full circle in life. It was like a godly universal wake-up call. It's like, hold on, dude. Yeah. You know, this is not going to be easy. You're going to have to battle, but you're going to get through this. Oh my God. So I put that gun down. I said a prayer to God, and from that moment on, it took some time. And I think that's what people need to know when they're going through anxiety and depression. It doesn't happen overnight, right? There's certain steps I had to take. It probably took about 2 good years for me to really get to the point in my life where I'm comfortable sharing these things with people.
Sure.
Because there was times when I would try and talk about it and I just couldn't. But I think for me to heal, was diet, it was exercise, it was taking care of how I, myself from drinking aspect, kind of cut down on that. Obviously the pills were gone, but I think more importantly anything is that the ability to be vulnerable enough to go out there and tell people about it and talk about it, because when you talk about these things, it no longer holds power over you. And so once I was able to say, you know what, this does not scare me, it does not shame me anymore, for the people out there that are driving, listening to this, dude, if you're struggling with this and you don't let anybody know, it's going to eat you alive. You got to let it out, you've got to talk about it, and you got to be vulnerable with it to the people you love the most, your wife and kids. And you know, I unfortunately I got divorced last year, and a lot of it was not because of my wife, it was because of my issues that I've had was so bad, it was hard for her to get over.
Let's stay on there for a second. I'm so grateful for you, bro.
Thanks, brother.
Because you're helping millions of people. And I want everyone to picture this again. You've got millions of dollars in the bank, beautiful family, and you're set for the rest of your life, great home, you can do whatever you want all day long. And this is what I want everybody to hear. You think your job's stressing you, or you think it's the person in your life that's stressing you, but what happens is we get go-to emotions in our life that we become addicted to. If one of your emotions is anxiety or stress or fear, the thing you're using right now to give you that emotion may be your career, like you were in baseball. It may be another person. But you think, well, if I switch careers or I switch the person, I'll lose that addiction to the emotion. You don't. You find another place to generate the same emotion. So it may move from your career to a person, to your money. So the thing to be aware of is that you're addicted to that emotion. You're addicted to how that makes you feel. There's a pattern you're running. So the anxiety wasn't just your career, because you took the career away, the anxiety was still there. The depression was still there. This is a powerful thing for everybody to understand. The second thing I'd ask you though, so I want you to be aware of that. I agree with you that the awareness and the talking about it helps it lose a lot of its power over you, and ask for help. Talk to people. Mental health, everybody, is become something that is not this taboo thing anymore, okay? It's just like mental health is the same as you got an injured knee, an injured back, it's an injury to you. It's something that if you talk about and get help, you can heal. And so I want to, and by the way, some of you that think that, well, I'm using medications or alcohol, okay, oftentimes those are masking agents, and I just want everybody to understand this. When you remove that drug or that alcohol, sometimes this monster that's hurting you is bigger now because the masking is gone, and you're going to need to deal with it eventually. So could you take them through a couple other things? If you were given, someone's listening saying, I'm somewhere from totally depressed with the 357 at my head to I'm just bummed out a lot and I'm not happy. What were some of the steps you did take, talking about it, sharing with other people? Was there something you did? Therapy, faith? You said diet, anything you'd share specifically?
I think the one thing that I did right out of the gate, first and foremost, was I would wake up in the morning early before everybody got up, before the kids got up and the craziness of my day started. And I'd give myself an hour to, whether it's reading the Bible or reading a self-help book of some sort, just to get my mind in a positive frame right out of the gate in the morning.
Okay.
You know, then I would get my kids off to school. You know, my wife at the time would go do what she does, and then I would go to the gym. And at the time, I was watching so many YouTube videos on motivation. I wish I saw you back in the day. I would have put you on there. But so I had all these YouTube videos that were like downloaded on like a MP3 in my, you know, so I could listen to it while I worked out. I wouldn't even listen to music. I was listening to positive, encouraging, motivating talks with a little inspirational background music with guys like, you know, Les Brown, Tony Robbins, your boy. And guys like that, and I would just work out as I'm rewiring my brain with the endorphins naturally from working out.
Yes.
And that positive talk is going on in my head all the time. And along with diet. And so I went on this incredible just like journey of the next 2 years. But I will say this, the depression was there at times, the anxiety was still there at times, the panic attacks were getting less and less and less.
Okay.
It wasn't daily, they started gradually going down. Even today, I still have anxiety.
Sure.
I'm sure as you do too.
I do.
But it does not overtake my life anymore. And I think that's the biggest thing is so many people think that, you know what, I shouldn't ever have anxiety. I shouldn't ever have depression. But we all have seasons of it.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to accept it and say it's just a season of my life.
So well said.
And it's not going to control my life.
The one thing I think is, and by the way, you may, if you have an extreme situation, there may be a chemical issue that you need to address.
1000%.
For the vast majority of people, it's not that, but there are some, and I just want to make sure that we're clear about this. For some of you, it may be a chemical issue. For the vast majority of it, it's a program we're running, a pattern. And what you just said is so important for the people that I've coached, that I've worked with in my life too. It will only be a constant program that keeps it at bay. In other words, When you're running a program for many years of your life, since you're a 6-year-old boy, of course there was anxiety, even though you weren't processing it. You were running that anxiety program from the time that conversation happened about your daddy to this day. And so when you run a program that repetitively over and over again, don't ever think, I got it, it's gone, I'll never have it again. The thing that keeps it at bay is running a program in reverse, whether that's someone who drinks and they're in a 12-step program they run over and over, whether it's meditation or working out or the fitness. You better keep a program or it's going to rear its head again. It's part of your programming now. I just don't want people to think, I got it licked.
Well, I think that's important you said too, because a lot of people think that, you know what, they've asked me all the time, do you believe in taking pills? Mm-hmm. Listen, when I first went through my anxiety and depression, if I didn't have pills, I probably would have killed myself.
Okay. Yep.
So I needed to take something to take that edge off while I was working at myself. But eventually, I started weaning myself off on these things, you know, where it wasn't a daily take. You know, skip a day. Okay, I made it through that day. Maybe I skip 2 days the next time. And then before you know it, I'm free of them. So, you know, I'm not anti-medication because I think there's certain situations where people are so down and out. You know, there's no other, if they're thinking the way I was thinking, you're better off taking that for a while just to keep yourself grounded.
This is a really difficult topic and I'm just glad we're addressing it. I don't think your best psychologist or a self-help guy like me, I don't think anybody knows for sure where that line is. I just don't. What I do know is that if that program is running and you can't get that program to run without addressing the chemistry issues that perhaps for some of you short term, I'm hoping and I believe that very few people need to be on these medications long term in their lives, but there are people who do. I have someone very dear to me who is, and they have been very functional and very happy with it. So that's a difficult issue, but the point, everybody, for today, because you're not two doctors sitting here today, is that this is someone who's walked it, who's lived it, who's telling you his story, how he broke the pattern or continues to fight the pattern. If you don't mind me asking, because you're just so open, I think when you have difficulty like this in our lives and then like a real difficulty hits, often it can really put people what they call a relapse or a setback. Without, you don't have to get into it too deeply, but then you've gone through the last year of divorce.
Yeah, it was tough.
And so how did it cause you to go backwards in some of these feelings?
Well, here's what's interesting. When I first got divorced, obviously it was devastating. I love my wife very much, and we tried to make it work, and it just was one of those things where nobody messed around. It was just one of those things where we just kind of grew apart. And you know, I was sitting there in my apartment because I was out of the house, and I'm sitting there one night. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can go really dark right now. I can go negative town because I know how to go there, and I can go to the bar every night, get drunk, and go out and just do whatever I want to do. Or I can take this as a time of my life to work on myself, my mental, how I handle this situation, because I believe even negative situations can be used for positive things.
Sure.
You know, I believe that, you know, just because it's a negative thing, eventually you're going to look back at it one day and realize, hey, that turned out to be a positive for your life. So in that moment, I said, all right, I'm going to go on this. At the time, I was about 30 pounds overweight, kind of fat.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I wasn't feeling all that
If you're
great.
watching YouTube, he certainly is not now.
So I went on this diet, the keto diet.
Okay.
I quit drinking completely. Okay. Right, and just with 3 months of keto and completely just did this whole transformation. Right, lost 30 pounds in 3 months, and pretty much just stayed in my house and just kind of worked on me, read and play with my kids, be with my kids, coach my kids, and just become, you know, instead of going to a dark place, which a lot of guys can. It was so close for me. I was so close to doing that.
Good for you.
And I think it could. A lot of people will succumb to that, and it's unfortunate because. You know what? With my relationship with my ex-wife now, it couldn't be better.
That's
great
to hear,
so I
bro.
think
for your kids
if
too.
I would have went on that dark side, it could have ruined our relationship as co-parents. It could have ruined my relationship with my kids. And I'm sitting here today, proud to be the man I am, and through that experience. Now, I wouldn't wish a divorce on my worst enemy.
Sure.
But it was something I did go through, and you know, I learned a lot, not only relationship-wise, but who I am as a man and who I need to be for my next partner.
I'm real proud of you. That's
Thanks,
wonderful, man. That's wonderful that you made that choice. I'm thinking about what you've said about all the mental health issues. It's just making me think. And one of the wonderful things about talking about this is, I think people who have anxiety or are down or worry or have fear all the way over to the depression spectrum, I think most people think they're abnormal.
Yeah.
I think they think this is something not normal about me.
I'm going through it all alone too.
Alone.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad you said that. And the truth of the matter is, it is normal. And you're choosing to go through it alone if you are, and you don't have to. There's so many people that want to help you. We're here to help you. My show's here to help you. Aubrey's new show's here to help you. You don't have to go through this alone. There are people you could reach out to by phone, by text, who love you more than you realize. And it's not that I'm giving you permission to live that way. I'm saying it's part of the human experience, and things happen for us, not to us. Ironically enough, as crazy as it sounds, part of your dad being gone at 6 years old, as tragic as it was, happened for you and not to you.
1000%. From the stories I've heard from my mom, I loved my dad. He actually, during that, during his murder, he actually pushed a woman out of the way from getting shot, so he saved a life.
Wow.
But from what I've been told from my mom, I mean, he was going through a really, really tough time himself.
Some of these same things.
Yeah,
huh?
they were actually going through a divorce at the time, which I didn't know.
Wow.
He had his demons as well. So, you know, it may be one of those things where, you know what if he stayed alive?
And I wonder if there's, I wonder if there's an element of when you lose a dad that young that you want to prove yourself, and that helped with the 200 swings a day. And do you get the batting cage if your dad's there? You know, like there's all these things that it was part of your journey. And the truth is, everything in our life happens for us, not to us, if we choose to believe that, and then we take meanings from it that serve us. And so, everyone just be evaluating, if you've got these issues, the meanings you're taking from events, right? Like an extreme situation. You and I, if we walked up the street right here and there was a car accident, we watched somebody get killed, they died in arms, our meaning would be, this was tragic.
Right.
That's an extreme example. Mother Teresa said the most blissful, great moments, honoring moments of her life were that she could be with someone as they were passing, that she could be there as their soul transitioned. So same event, two different meanings, and that's an extreme event, right? So evaluate the meanings you take, because you did that in your apartment. This divorce could mean this, where I go dark, or it could mean this, where I work on myself. And that meaning you took caused you to take the better action. So I know we're going deep here today, but this is, did you think you'd be with an MLB player who mashed on TV for 13 years and be talking about these issues?
Well, that's the thing, man, because I think it's so important. That's part of my healing as a professional athlete, right? And you know, you played ball, and so you get it. You're taught as a kid, as you're growing up, to put this mask on of nothing can get in your head. Nobody's going to hurt you. Nobody can hurt you. And no matter what, like that pitcher's not going to see me being afraid. Yeah. Right? And so when you take, it's very hard for an athlete to take that mentality of being a warrior, not being afraid, and then take it into your home life. Yeah. It's hard to switch that off, right? To be vulnerable with your wife, to be vulnerable with your kids. And because it's by no fault of our own, we just don't even realize that we are just naturally trained to be that kind of person, to be so shut down from emotion. Yes. Because, I mean, we can't, the media is at you 24/7. You know, the fans are at you 24/7. So you build this wall around you, and it's so hard to get rid of that wall, especially for the people you love the most. And that's the people that are coming on my podcast, some of the ex-athletes and some of the current athletes. I want to stress to them, lean on those people that have loved you the most out of the game or while you're playing, because those are going to be the people that will be with you when you're done with the game. Because, I mean, that's, when you're done with the game, it's done with you like that. There's no gradual send-off. It stops like that. You stop hearing from teammates. You stop hearing from your organization. You stop hearing from fans. Forget about you. That identity that we talked about earlier is stripped. Yes. And so it's a tough transition. So we touch a lot on that with my new podcast, and I love talking about this subject.
How do they get the podcast? Let's get them to find you. Where do they go to find you on Instagram and on your podcast? So
Instagram,
or Twitter, wherever you want to find you.
I'm on Instagram at HuffDaddy76. I'm at Twitter at Aubrey_Huff. Okay. But my my podcast is called Off the Cuff with Aubrey Huff, and it's on, just launched last week. Okay. So my first 2 episodes are up. They're on iTunes right now. That's going to be on Stitcher, Google Music here soon. Okay. But I think Apple's, it's like 90% of the listeners anyway.
But we'll put all of those links up on the screen on YouTube as well. Speaking of the identity thing, we got a couple more minutes. I've enjoyed this. It's like flying by. It is. Because there's not been a wasted second. Right. And that was both of our goals before we started. let's just get into the great stuff. But I do want to ask you about this identity thing, because you said, like, your MLB career, you know, I work with a lot of athletes. It is dramatic from being the center of the universe and attention to not a lot. And that fall off can also happen when you're in a relationship. When you get a divorce, it probably happened with you too. All of a sudden, an entire set of friends may not any longer be in your life again. Right. Or you leave a career, or you have a business failure that sets back. How have you been able to kind of like remake your identity? A lot of people out there, if you're right now, like, they're like, I don't like my current identity. I'd like to remake me. How have you started that? I'm watching you do it. This is not the same guy who was playing in 2008, right? There's a different person here, a better version of him. How have you done that?
Ed, I'm still working on it.
Of course.
Yeah. Right. So when you get out, I through my hat in so many different arenas, right? I did the 95.7 The Game up in San Francisco, where I wake up at 4 in the morning, talk from 6 to 10, drive about sports. Warriors, Giants, the whole deal. I found that very negative. It was a very negative world because you know, people want to hear the trash, right? And, I didn't last very long there. Then I went into network marketing. I know you've had your spin with network marketing, and I definitely see the value of network marketing.
Sure.
I just didn't want to be on the phone all day, right? So
wasn't your thing.
It wasn't my thing, and so I did that. I even took a spin at acting.
Okay.
And hell, I even tried to make a comeback with baseball because my identity was so tied up in being a baseball player. That's all I knew. I was so desperate to come back at 40 that I started making a comeback, and people thought I was losing my marbles. I think I was, but you know, you just try so hard as an athlete to try and to replace that identity that you were for so long. And then there has to become a time where I think in the last couple of years I've done that, where I'm like, you know what? I was blessed to have the life I've had. Let's move on. Let's raise my kids, and let's give back to other people what you've learned in your life. Because it was so much about me for so long. When I got, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in my life? Am I going to do this? How am I going to be relevant again? And then all of a sudden, the last years, you know what? Let's get this story out. There's a reason I went through all this stuff, the tragedy in my life, the divorce, all this stuff that's coming. I think it's an unbelievable story for people to hear. So if I can let that out and let people out there know that they're not alone in their struggles, man. That's a big purpose. And that's my new identity.
So that's right. You just crushed that. So let me say my version of that to you, because I think it's perfect what you just said. The way that you begin to change your identity is exactly what Aubrey just said. And what it is that you find now at this stage of your life what your calling and your purpose is. The irony is your baseball career wasn't your calling. The irony is the mosaic, the story of your life from that 6-year-old incident all the way up to now has put you in now to your purpose. You're in the prime of your life. You're using your story and your purpose, and also your natural giftedness. You're articulate, right? You have a great voice. The way when you tell a story, I can picture you running around the bases. And so that's why this is your time. And for those of you listening to this, the pathway to that new identity is finding your new purpose, your new calling and it'll always be towards the contribution of other people, using either your story or your giftedness, your natural giftedness, to that end. You've heard me say this in my podcast, whether it's your math skills, your speaking skills, your art skills, your nurturing skills, listening skills, compassion, passion, intensity, your concern, your love, your faith, whatever those giftednesses are in the service of other people, that's how you build that new identity. You crush that right there. You crush that right there. All right, last question for you. By the way, I've enjoyed today tremendously.
I have too, man.
And I can't wait to share this with the world. Like, this is it's an overused term, change people's lives, but but this is gonna change some lives. This may even save a couple lives.
Yeah, I like getting soulful, man.
Yeah, and you definitely did that. So the last thing, I ask a lot of my guests this, and so you've made, the other thing about you that's remarkable, and I don't want to lose it in the conversation about all this other stuff, is you've achieved at the highest levels in your life. Like, way up there. One of 350 people ever to walk the earth, probably one of 100 or 150 people currently living to do what you've done. That's a remarkable achievement around the world. Baseball's a global game. The Dominican market is so big in baseball now. Like, around the world, you're one of 150 people probably actively living to do what you've done. So there's people watching this and listening say, I want to make my dream come true. You know, I want to enter that season of my life where I get to do that stuff for my mom. I get to do that stuff for my kids. I get to do something even for myself. What would your advice be towards chasing that dream and creating a transformation? They're not on the path they need to be right now. And Aubrey Huff had a cup of coffee with you for a couple minutes. You say, hey man, or hey lady, consider these couple things. This will help you chase your dream.
Well, I think it's just you have to sacrifice. You know, you got to sacrifice a lot of your time to do what you really love. And what I hate, I coach my kids, right? They're 10 and 8 years old.
You're doing it today.
And I'm really active in their lives, and I want them to be the best men they can be. And I don't necessarily care if they play professional baseball, whatever it is they want to do. I want to be passionate about what they love. But I always tell them, and I think this goes for everybody, and I can't stand when I hear somebody say, you know, I've had coaches tell me this growing up, better have a backup plan, a plan B or plan C. To me, that's an easy way out. That's a cop-out, right? I knew, like I told you earlier, I knew I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. And that was my plan A. I didn't have a backup plan. If I didn't make a Major League Baseball, I don't know. It didn't matter. I knew it. I had this delusional quality because when I was in high school, I hit 300 with 1 home run my senior year.
Man!
Not necessarily the stats of a future professional baseball player. I had to walk onto a junior college, gain 20 pounds of muscle, hit a growth spurt, hit 17 bombs, went to University of Miami, made All-American, it took off. Many people would have quit in high school and gave up. I still had a delusional dream in myself, and I knew that I was going. If I had a backup plan, I would not have. I would not have went to junior college to walk on. So, to me, take that dream, that A+ dream in your heart, and if you love it, chase it. It may not work out immediately, but it will eventually if you give everything you got to.
Brother, that was gold. I just released it. This won't come out simultaneous, but I released today my interview. I was telling you, I've only chased one guy, which is Sebastian Maniscalco, to do my show.
Right.
His point of the whole interview was, I had no plan B.
Yep.
I was going to be a famous stand-up comedian. There was no plan B. There was no 5-year plan. I was going to go work at Motorola. I was going to do this. You burn the bridge. You get on the other side of your dream, you burn the bridge, and you just pay the price until the dream happens. I love that. That was so good, brother. Thank you so much for today.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's been a pleasure, brother. That was fun. It was fun.
It flew by. I can't even get over it. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Make sure you're following Aubrey's podcast, following him on social media. And hey, if you're listening to this, you probably follow me, but if you're not, follow me on Instagram and turn your notifications on, because I built this show and I built my programs, all of them, to help contribute to your life. I'm in that season of my life where I want to serve as well. So I created the Max Out 2-minute drill on Instagram, which means this: I want to engage with you. So there's 3 ways to win. Number 1, when I make a post on my main feed, if you make a comment within the first 2 minutes, and make it a good comment, you can win. If you miss the first 2 minutes, make a comment on someone else's comment, so I see you collaborating and communicating together. Or third, just make a comment on, this is the main feed, on every post I make every day, and we add up at the end of the week. Anyone who posts at any time, 8 hours later, 9 hours later, 10 hours later, if you just post every single day a comment, we pick a winner from there as well. And the winners win all kinds of cool stuff. Ride on my private jet, tickets to see me speak, coaching calls with my guests, Max Out gear, my book, you name it. So engage with me there. I want to connect with you in the Max Out 2-minute drill and learn more about you and help you make your dreams come true. So please do that every day. I post between 7:30 and 8 a.m. Pacific time, which is 10:30 and 11 Eastern, so you'll know when I'm coming. All right, everybody, God bless you and max out your life. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like more, click the videos right here. They're exactly what you need to see next. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and become a part of the Max Out community. And tell me what you think about the videos in the comments below. I read all of them every week, and I select winners that get all kinds of prizes, gear, coaching calls with me. Make a comment.